Oh, this will be in the video.
um, when it comes to a bit spicy, difficult, vulnerable topics and conversations in relationships, there's a huge potential, and also it's happening, that one or both are jumping into their ego, into defending mode, or even offending mode. Why is this? Because in the end, we don't want this, right? So we don't want to have these fights and argues who feel ugly, or you want to simply, you would like to address something, you want to have a conversation. And in the end, what do we want? We want more connection. We want more harmony, love, juice, adventure, spark, passion. Like, we don't want to have these weird feelings in having conversations. So there's one little tiny sneaky being who is truly fucking up the show. So maybe you have heard about the ego thing, but what is this ego thing? So I think nobody can really explain it. We in Brett and Lola...
we don't talk about the ego, actually.
Yeah. So Brett and Lola, in Brett and Lola, we are teaching something is called the internal family. And today we want to talk about it a bit. What is this internal family? What every one of us has? And what work can you actually do that you have different outcomes in your conversations with your partner or even with everyone? So there is this adult version of us, what is mostly very compassionate, understanding the situation and more mature. Then you have probably also heard about the inner child. And the third is the outer child. The outer child is the one who is fucking up the show in your conversations. So what is the inner child? The inner child is the one who is carrying these woundings from childhood, and is the one, when we make it very simple and very short, we won't go into much details, but the inner child who feels like all these emotions. Maybe you were abandoned, or you carry some trauma, or you feel some kind of resentment or sadness or grief, or you haven't processed something good enough, let's say. Like the inner child is the one who feels and is afraid and fears of losing someone, for example. The outer child, yeah.
And before going to the outer child, think about it like a little baby inside of you. So you are an adult right now, but you were a 3-year-old, 5-year-old. So imagine that little boy, that little girl still is in you, right? And he or she hasn't been, his needs or her needs haven't been met by the parents. Maybe the parents were working all the time, and that little girl, that little boy didn't have all the attention that they needed. That already is a wounding, okay? So yes, we talk about trauma, and maybe it's a big word to use, but all of us haven't been, our needs haven't been met completely. And I think there's no ideal case where we are parents as well, and we know that we are doing the best of our ability, but with our boy, we won't be able to meet all of his needs, right? So that little boy will grow up and will have these lacks that the parents or anyone didn't give to this little boy, this little girl. So that's your inner child. And that's this wounded little boy, little girl, right? That needs attention, needs, different things.
Love, care, reassurance. So this is all your inner child. We make it practical. So I love to make things practical. So for example, in Bruno's case, it was, for example, the mom, he would have loved to have more physical care, more reassurance, more loving attention of, hey, I love you, I love you as you are.
I'm gonna cry right now going deep. Yeah, when you talk about the inner child, maybe some tears will come out. And especially my journey, of course. My mom, of course, was working a lot, and I didn't have a physical touch. So this is my journey. And your journey is going to be different. For example, for Tina.
Exactly. In my case, my dad left when I was 9, and until I was 9, he was almost never there. Meaning, my little girl was missing this masculine father figure for protection, for care, for love, like from this masculine figure. So then years ago, I don't know when, 6 years ago, I think, I healed this little girl inside regarding this abandonment. And so there are tools. We are teaching this, for example, in Pull Me Closer. So the inner child is something you can heal and integrate. And then there comes this thing, what fucks up the show.
Well, and before going there,
yeah.
you know, yes, you can heal, because what you basically very compacted. You have to understand that you lacked, you have to give it to yourself. Okay, so that's the exercise. What did my mother or my father didn't give to me? Now am I giving it to myself? And of course, there's some tools, exercises, so you can heal these wounds.
Yeah.
Okay, and before moving to the next part, is like, if as a couple we know each other's stories, we can support each other. That doesn't mean that so for example, if Tina had this abandonment of the father figure, I'm not going to be the father figure to Tina, and I'm not going to be the one to be the father that she didn't have. Okay, she is the one that has to transform inside of herself into the father that she didn't have, and give to herself that what she lacked from her father. It's very different than me, Bruno, as a partner, filling up those voids, because this is never gonna help. And this is what we teach on another part of our program, which is the interdependence of a relationship. Here we would be talking about dependency and codependency, which is our partner is filling up wounds and things that we lacked from our parents, and becoming a mother or a father. And that's never a partner. That is something else, right? And it's never gonna be a nourishing intimacy, because we have these distorted and toxic dynamics that most relationships nowadays have, right?
Exactly. This is happening in many relationships without being aware. So what we're teaching here is nobody taught us about all of these patterns we have, and they are subconscious because they are so many, many decades already in us. So why are we acting out like this? This is so important to understand, being aware and conscious about it, so then you can transform and change it. It's very simple. And so this is what Bruno's saying. You have something and this is playing out, and you don't want to act out of these wounded places, because then what's happening in your relationships are very like unhealthy patterns, what is developed, and then you can't move into this integrated, balanced, interdependent state of a relationship.
Exactly. And if you want to move to a nourishing intimacy, a passionate intimacy, a vibrant relationship, it's very important to do this inner work that becomes, even before of anything sexual related, like it's becoming independent as a person and not relying on your partner to give that validation, that attention, that recognition, right? All those things we have to give it to ourselves. And yes, our partner can be a great supporter on this journey. That's why, coming back to what I was saying, when both partners know about each other's stories, it's easier to go on this journey that is called parenting yourself, right? And becoming more whole and more independent, right? And now we're going to the next part, because yes, we have all this inner child wound thing that we have to work on, but actually this is not the one that is fucking up the show. This is actually the wounded little one that it's never gonna be violent. Like, it's a little boy, and what are little boys, little girls? Innocent, right? They're never gonna do harm. They are the ones that are harmed, and they're not the ones that don't have the tools, to say what they need.
Afraid, right? Again, of abandoned, of being hurt, of getting harmful. So yes, it's exactly what Bruno was saying. You can add, for example, in conversations, you can say, hey, can you give me some reassurance? Or hey, can you give me a hug? Or I reacted like this because this thing of the little inner child was coming up. So you can support the partner by talking about it very transparently, openly, honestly, because so your partner can support you and is not responsible to fill these voids.
And let's give an example here. For example, really quick, I'm a little boy that was growing up, and my mother would always tell me that I'm doing things wrong. Okay, very simple. So now I'm in a relationship with another woman, and I do something, and of course my nervous system and my being, with all this experience from my past living with my mother and my family, is wired to hear this from a feminine figure, right? You've done something wrong. So now I'm doing something in the kitchen, or I broke some glass the other day, and she was angry because she's tired. Of course, she's breastfeeding, and her her, you know, how to call it,
My energy, my state,
went down.
My mood.
Exactly,
Yeah.
her mood went down, and I was like, oh shit, she's angry with me, and I've done something wrong, right? That's the story that I keep playing, of course, and I'm healing myself. And in those moments, it's very important for me, Bruno, not Tina. She's not responsible. I'm the responsible here to know my process and say to Tina, hey, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling as if I have done something wrong. Can you reassure that's not the case, and you're not feeling angry or you're not feeling down because of me? And that's what we talked about. And she said, hey, Bruno, you have done nothing wrong. Reassurement. I love you. I desire you. I want you. Right? Those are things that you can say. Those are reassuraments, and those are things that we also teach on our program, how to go about this reassurance. So it's so important for the inner child. But we haven't got to the big part of the video, which is the outer child.
Yes. So the one who is fucking up this show. What is the outer child? There's not so much spoken about it. The outer child is actually also in you, your adolescent. So if you want to call it the ego, but it's way more a person when you say the outer child, because we also talk about the inner child. It's your adolescent who is rebellious, who goes against everything, who is saying like, fuck you. Like, this is more the energy of the outer child. What does it also want? Of course, it wants to protect you, but it has more like, let me in peace. You don't want this energy, right? The inner child is more this wounded, very vulnerable, emotional being. And the outer child is actually who runs into defense mode, or even offending mode, or closing off, or having like, or screaming, or angry. This is all your outer child.
So the inner child is more inner child inwards, right? And the outer child is more outward. So the inner child, we could call it the repressive side, the wounded side, and the outer child is the reactive, right? This reaction to the outside. So the inner boy, the inner girl, the inner little boy, little girl grows up into adolescent, and what are teenagers and adolescents? They are wanting to, react against the world and everything that is wrong with the world and their parents, and that's who you have inside as well.
Yep.
And this is the transformation of this little girl and little boy that didn't have their needs met. So now they are reacting against the world or against the partner whenever a situation is a little bit more tense.
And why? Because they developed through all the experience before, and this keeps playing out when you're not conscious in your adulthood. You are attracting always the same because you have developed a belief about, and in this case, we talk about relationship, about men and women. So, for example, I had years ago a mentor, and then we were also talking about it. And I had a heartbreak, in my single dating phase, and then I had a heartbreak. And this mentor was saying to me, you need to talk to your, and we used another term, but it would have been the outer child. You need to talk to her because she's right now fucking up the show. Otherwise, maybe this man would have stayed. I mean, I'm happy that it didn't happen.
and I'm here. If not, I wouldn't be here.
Yet what I want to say. So my outer child was carrying a story about, and this comes then again back to our parents, or then even experiences we collected over all our lifetime. And I mean, many women will have this, conscious or unconsciously. I was not aware of it. I never would have said it. That men are assholes and men are always leaving and you can't trust them, and in the end they will leave you. I mean, 90% at least of all women will carry these stories subconsciously because they had some of these experiences. Is it with a dad or is it with some man they had?
Yeah.
And so in the kind of men have their stories about maybe I'm not enough for women, or they don't love me, or they are all bitches and drama, they are not honest, whatever. Like, men are carrying these kind of stories. So this outer child has built some belief system around men and women, and therefore more sometimes a protective or offensive, defensive energy, avoidant.
So there's different mechanisms, and it depends on your story, and it depends on your past. You have to be able to understand your story and understand your mechanisms, because that's going to be easy. We're not saying that the outer child won't come out, right? That's not the case. It will, okay? It does in our relationship. But the most important thing is not that the outer child doesn't come out, because it will come out. You know, there's stressful life situations, especially if you're having a baby, you're having a business, there's money issues coming on the way, there's health issues. You know, life can get sometimes chaotic, and it's not always blissful, even though you can have the same at the same time, like it's our case. But that's the intensity of life, whatever you want to live. But it's going to come out. So you need the proper tools and you understand these kind of things that we're explaining. So when it comes out, you have the tools to be able to just communicate with your partner and don't get in the escalation, right?
Exactly. So when we make examples again, some practical. So one partner jumps into the outer child and is probably not aware of it, then it would be helpful that the other partner is not jumping into it with their outer child. So sometimes it's happening, one is going into the outer child. Now it's healthy for the other one to stay in their matured version and seeing what's happening. This could be one example. Or when it is happening that both are jumping in the ego or in the outer child, then maybe some moments, some hours, a day, 2 days later, you come back to each other and saying like, what we actually did 2 days ago. We say like, it's happening. The outer childs are having had this conversation, and we both want the best for each other. We both love each other and want each other. We both want to have a good outcome. So being simply aware of it happened, and then you zoom out in the observer mode and also in the matured version, understood why it happened, and then you come back into this more peaceful and then more connection mode of a conversation. But mostly it's way healthier, and it happens mostly to us that only one is jumping there and the other can stay in the matured adult version, and then it doesn't take a long time, right? It's more like being observative in your kind of conversations. Who is right now running the show? And your partner can help if you are not aware. Sometimes you are aware of, oh, right now I'm in one of these three, or now we're talking inner and outer child, because these are the ones tricky in conversations. And then you can zoom in and say like, oh, this was my inner and outer. This is amazing, because then you are fast catching it. If you're not catching it, your partner can maybe point out very compassionately when he stays in the matured adult version and saying like, hey, honey, I can observe this and this is happening. What do you need from me right now? How can I support this right now? And if you obviously both jump into it, it's probably this what you're now experiencing. Then it's way more helpful to zoom out and say like, hey, I have to stay more in the observer mode. It's not about getting rid of anything of all these three. It's your internal family, how we call it. It's more like observing what's happening and what is the need of one of these, and helping it yourself. And if you have a supportive partner, your partner can help you with it.
Yeah, and I think something that helps us, Tina and I, is that we are very communicative, as you can see. But we always say to each other that, if, for example, this happened a couple of days ago, but in the same conversation that my outer child was speaking, I was saying that I want the best for, and what I'm saying is the best for us. So I want the best for us. I want the best for me, for you, for our family. So I think this kind of little words saying that maybe, yes, there's this outer child coming, but at the end of the day, what I want is the best for us, right? And I'm doing the best for us and all of these things.
Obviously, and as you know, words are, I don't know, it's not even 5%. There is energy, there is tone, there is gesture, there is mimic, like there is so much more. So that's why obviously we have this kind of conversation. So I hear your words, but everything else of you speaks a different tone. That's why we had to have a different conversation. But
something important is when this outer child comes out, what you will see is that at the end of the conversation, what happens? Disconnection, mixed feelings, resentments maybe. You're not feeling well. Mm-hmm. So you don't want that in your relationship, right? You want to end a conversation with ease, with more connection. because communication leads to connection, right? That's why we have on our connection and intimacy code, the first pillar is honest communication. That's how we build connection, right? But also communication can lead to another direction. When we come from the outer child, we come from a reactive point of view, we come from a judging point of view, right? We come from an energy of you've done this, you know, and assaulting the other person. So this is not what we want, but yes, this will come out. So we want to have the tools to slowly, as we gain trust. So at the beginning of the relationship, this might be at the top, or where you are right now, this might be at the top. So now that you have this awareness, and of course on our programs, and especially Pull Me Closer, you're gonna have a lot of modules on how to understand this at a deeper level, have exercises with videos, with text, a lot of content, so you can have these tools to apply in your relationship. Of course, with the time, you're gonna build more experiences where the outer child was coming out, and since you have the remembrance of, oh, okay, we had already 15 experiences of outer child coming out. Now we know very well your outer child. I know very well my outer child. I know very well your inner child, my inner child, right? Because it has come out a lot of times. And the good part of this is that's a pattern. You can see the pattern. You can see the story playing out. So it's gonna be very easy to say, okay, I already know the outer child. And then when it comes, you're gonna laugh. Because you're gonna say, now it's your outer child again, right? And this is very beautiful with a couple, you know, after experiences, you know, learning from each other, learning how you react, how I react, so we can support each other. And at the end, you will see that this outer child is less and less reactive because it's more healed and more healed, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want is to feel this trust, right? And especially on these vulnerable topics, vulnerable conversations, what we are lacking is trust. We are fearing of being wounded and repeating the story of the past, which is the inner child. So once we build the trust that we can open up to our partner and we're not going to be rejected, judged, abandoned, you know, humiliated, all these there's 5 types of wounding, but that's another topic. And we build this trust that our partner is on our boat. Well, and that's a conversation that we want to have. We are on the same boat or we're on different boats, right? That's also something we talk about, Lola. But if we are truly on the same boat, we're going to build this awareness of, oh, our partner is super loving, is super supportive, right? And I can open up, I can show myself vulnerable, right? And this builds a new nervous system, one that can relax and one that doesn't have to react because there's not something to react to.
Thank you for listening to this video. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions about your internal family or maybe a personal situation. We would love to hear from you. And if you have a desire of us making a video about something, let us know. We always love hearing from our community. And see you in one of our next videos.